Our next panellist that I want to introduce is David Moody, sitting in front of the flash background there, David, NDS. David Moody is the Chief Executive Officer of the National Disability Services, which is Australia's peak body for non-government disability service providers. Prior to working at NDS, David was a lawyer in private practice, I did not know that, and a public servant leading teams responsible for national health and safety reform, strategy, OHS policy, OHS legislation, regulations, regulatory framework development, budget strategy, and corporate planning. David also led a team responsible for coordinating the Victorian Government's contribution to developing and establishing the National Disability Insurance Scheme. Thanks for your work in that space. David commenced working with the NDS in 2015 as Victorian State Manager and was appointed as NDS CEO in December 2019. Thanks for joining us today, David.
No worries. Thanks very much, Dave, and thanks, Laura, and all of the good folk at RecLink Australia. It's great to be here. It's not the first time I've been to one of these events organised by RecLink, and every year they never fail to disappoint, I must say, even online. I just want to share a few thoughts with you, perhaps some personal thoughts, if I might say. I want to thank everyone for inviting me to speak at this event to celebrate the International Day of People with Disability, a day which was originally proclaimed in 1992 by the UN General Assembly Resolution 47.3. The day aims to promote the rights and wellbeing of people with disability in all spheres of society and development, and to increase awareness of the situation of people with disability in every aspect of political, social, economic and cultural life. This year, the UN called out COVID-19 and the way the pandemic is deepening pre-existing, what the UN describes as pre-existing inequalities, exposing the extent of exclusion and highlighting that work on disability inclusion is imperative. Even under normal circumstances, the UN tells us, people with disability are less likely to access healthcare, education, employment, and to participate in the community. The UN notes that an integrated approach is required to ensure that people with disability are not left behind, and this extends, of course, to Australia. So today, on the 3rd of December, when we reflect on the International Day of People with Disability, we're reminded of how far we've come as a nation, but also how much we have to do to support people with disability, working in partnership to ensure people with disability have choice and control over their lives, accessible housing, accessible public buildings, accessible public toilets, for goodness sake. The fact that we're even talking about that concept in a first world country still beggars belief in my view. And of course, access to employment with the social and economic participation that a job brings. And in keeping with the specific theme of this year's day to challenge the way you think about disability and see ability in disability, I wanted to share with you a story of my own, which I hope illustrates the point. For about 6 of my pre-teen years, which were a long time ago now, my family would holiday in a caravan park at Safety Beach in Victoria for 6 weeks over the Christmas New Year period. When I was 11, I was really into trying to make things using Fisher technique, an electronic version of Lego. In the caravan park, there was a young man who was clearly fascinated by this electronic Lego, and it quickly became clear that he was also much better at using it than I was. I'm hopeless at anything to do with my thumbs. He was a few years older than me, but on occasion we would build things together. After one such occasion, I returned to my family's caravan only to hear a bit of a commotion outside. My older friend was being harassed and tormented by other children in the caravan park. And this was because, unbeknownst to me at the time, given my naivety, he had autism. Because it was because he was different, because he didn't fit in, quote unquote. And we know that kids can be cruel, and I was so traumatised by this event, I actually raced outside and tearfully told the kids to rack off. Possibly more severely than that, but that's what I think I might have said. They eventually did, and over time I lost contact with my caravan park mate over several years. But on this International Day of People with Disability, I'm left to wonder, whatever happened to my friend? Did he grow up to realise dreams of building and making electronic gadgets in which he clearly had significant ability? Or did he suffer under the yoke of lowered expectations faced by so many people with disability at that time and never realise his dreams and ambitions? I'm hoping the former and not the latter, but we need to do more than hope for change. On this day, let's commit to seeing the ability in people with disability, and let's remember what we have to lose as a community when we don't. But let's also remind ourselves that for so many people with disability, like my young friend from the 1970s, it was that long ago, realising their aspirations to lead a great life means ensuring people with disability have the right supports, services and community in their corner. And that's why at NDS we're committed to ensuring our disability sector in Australia is supported to become world's best practice. We are not there yet. And that organisations such as Reclink, AAA Play are able to continuing what they do, providing great opportunities for people with disability around Australia.